So picture a Saturday morning at the first tee. Four of us standing there. The group ahead just walked off, and the guy I play with most, Mike, glances at his watch and goes, "All right, we're up. Tee off in two." The newer guy in our group, Jamie, this is maybe his fourth round of golf ever, kind of blinks and says, 2 minutes? Thought we had a window. Dave just shrugs. They move fast. Mike asks who's hitting first, and Jamie says it again, real quiet, almost to himself. Tee off. Just trying it on. Then he goes, "Yeah, okay, just running the order in my head." And Dave laughs and tells him, "Just send it. Nobody really remembers what happens on number one." I came into golf through work and had to understand how golfers talk. I didn't need expensive lessons or endless rabbit holes online. I wanted clarity. So I built a free place to start at learngolfterms.com/start. Again, it's learngolfterms.com/start to access and download the free training. That was Jamie. He just heard tee off 3 times in maybe 20 seconds, and he's trying to act like he's heard it 1,000 times before. So today, I want to actually slow down on that phrase, because it's one of those words that feels obvious until you realize how much it's carrying. To tee off means to play your first stroke on a hole from the teeing area. That's the whole thing. You set your ball on a tee, or just on the ground if you want, and you hit your starting shot. People also use it for the round itself. If somebody says we tee off at 8, they mean the first hole, the first shot of the day, 8 a.m. on the dot. The rules of golf use the term teeing area for the spot you're hitting from. The first time I heard somebody say, "we tee off in 20, I almost asked a follow-up question. Then I caught myself. Then I just nodded. Where tee actually comes from is one of those etymology questions that sounds simple and quietly turns into a mess. Short version, nobody's totally sure. The earliest written form anyone has nailed down is tease, and it shows up in a Latin grammar book from a schoolmaster named David Wedderburn, written in Aberdeen sometime before 1646. He used the Scots word tease to translate the Latin word for a support. So at that point, a tee wasn't a peg at all. It was a little heap of sand you piled up to lift your ball. The Oxford English Dictionary calls tee apparently a clipped form of tease and says the deeper origin is unknown. Some theories point to Scandinavian roots, others to a Dutch word for a small conical shape. None of them are settled. What is documented is that by the 1670s, the verb to tee, meaning to place your ball for a stroke, was already in use. The phrase tee off as a noun for the start of play in golf shows up in writing by 1952. The expression teed off, meaning irritated, came along right after, around 53. One strong theory there is that it was just a polite swap for the rougher version of the same idea. The teeing area is one of the 5 defined parts of a golf course in the current rules of golf, alongside the general area, penalty areas, bunkers, and the putting green. The teeing area itself is a rectangle, 2 club lengths deep, measured back from the front edge of the 2 tee markers. By club length, the rules mean the longest club in your bag except the putter. For most players, that's the driver. The front edge of the rectangle runs along the front of the markers, with the sides extending straight back. In practice, you walk up and tee your ball somewhere between or just behind the markers, and you're fine. The ball has to be inside the area. You don't have to be. You can stand outside the box if it helps your angle, as long as the ball itself is inside the rectangle. The tee markers themselves are fixed. You can't move them. Now, if you actually play a shot from outside the teeing area, the rules treat that as a real mistake. In stroke play, it's a 2-stroke penalty and you have to replay from the correct spot. In match play, your opponent gets to choose whether to make you replay. The strokes you took with the wrong ball don't count toward your score for the hole. As a piece of history, the teeing area as a marked, designated zone wasn't fully standardized until the late 19th century. Old Tom Morris is credited with formalizing separate teeing grounds at St. Andrews around 1875, partly to speed up play. Before that, golfers were teeing up close to the previous hole, and the group behind would be standing around waiting for the green to clear. Order of play on the first tee is usually decided however the group wants. After that, honors go to the player with the lowest score on the previous hole. They tee off first. If you want to feel more comfortable when golf comes up, I created something called Before Your First Tee. It is a short, focused program that helps you understand the language and follow what is happening in real conversations. You will know what people mean and how to respond without feeling lost. You can find it at learngolfterms.com/talk. That's learngolfterms.com/talk. Start feeling comfortable before the round even begins. On a casual weekend round, you'll hear tee off as a logistics word more than anything. What time do we tee off? Or we tee off in 15. It's the word people use for when the day starts. In a competitive or club round, the language tightens up. Tee times are official. People say, I'm in the 8:22 off the first, or we tee off the back at noon. The word tee starts doing more work as a noun in that setting. Charity scrambles often run on shotgun starts, but you'll still hear someone say, shotguns at 9, but the captains tee off first on whatever hole they drew. For corporate or client golf, the phrase tends to sit inside a schedule. Somebody in the group text says, we tee off at 11:15, lunch after, and that's the structure of the day. Quick aside on a related phrase. Off the tee shows up a lot too, but that one's about where a shot was hit from, not about starting. Different use of the same route. The phrase itself is flat, it's logistics, but the moment it points to is loaded. The first tee shot of the day has the most people watching, the most expectations, the most room to start sideways. So when someone says, we tee off at 7, there's usually a quiet little energy under it. Sometimes excitement, sometimes dread, depends on the round and the group. Inside a tournament round, tee off takes on more weight. People know the time matters. Showing up late to your tee time isn't really a recoverable mistake. So the word, depending on the room, can feel social and casual, or it can feel like a hard deadline. Same word, totally different temperature. Picture two buddies texting on a Friday afternoon. One of them goes, what time we teeing off Saturday? And the other one comes back with something like, 8:06 off the first. Don't be the guy who's late. That's the whole exchange. Happens a million times a weekend. A few of the actual phrasings you'll hear. We tee off at 8. You teeing it up this weekend? Who's teeing off first? I teed off 3 groups behind him. Let's go, we're up. That last one isn't using the word at all, but it's the one you'll hear most often when it's actually time. There's also tee it high and let it fly, which is more of a slogan than a sentence, but it lives in the same neighborhood. And first off the tee, as in, I was first off the tee this morning, meaning you got the early time slot. None of these are written down anywhere. They're just the shapes the word takes in real rounds. My honest moment with this word came earlier than the moments with most golf words. I knew tee off from movies and from hearing it on TV before I'd ever picked up a club seriously. So I had the word for years before I had any real context for it. The first time somebody actually said to me, we tee off at 9, I caught myself doing that thing where I repeated it back as a question, just to give myself a beat to make sure I knew what they were asking. Which is a little embarrassing in hindsight, because of all the words in golf, this might be the most basic one. But that's how it works when you're a language-first person walking into something new. You know the words, you don't necessarily know what time you're supposed to show up. There's something funny to me about being more comfortable with the etymology of tees than with the question of which set of markers I'm supposed to be hitting from. Still working on the second part. If you're newer, and tee off has been one of those phrases you've been nodding along to without really tracking, this is the one that opens a door. Once it lands, the whole logistical conversation around a round of golf gets readable. Tee times, tee sheets, who's first off the tee, what time you're hitting on 10. All of it suddenly snaps into place because you know what the action at the center of it actually is. You stop translating in the group text. You stop hesitating when somebody asks you what time you're playing tomorrow. That's the click. It's not a swing thing. It's just being able to be in the conversation. So back to Jamie at the first tee, eyes on the markers, running the order in his head. He hits a fine drive, by the way. Right side of the fairway. Not long, but in play. Walks off the box like nothing happened. Honestly, that's most tee shots when they go well. The round just kind of starts. You're a few yards into your day before it even feels like it began. All right, that's mine. Talk to you next one.